Crossover, quick release. Oh, baby, and the foul. Woo. Offensive rebound for Watson.
32 seconds. Shot clock differential about 14 seconds. 3-point lead.
Who run shit like me? Top 5 basically. I still play for keeps. Ain't no fantasy. Hey.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Divine Providence, episode 5 now. I'm your host, Matthew Leb, along with Mr. Mac. Huge week of college basketball here. It's feast week. So we're going to talk about, obviously, Atlantis. We're going to talk about some of the games that happened here already. I'm going to do, like I said, a nice preview of Atlantis. Talk maybe a little bit about Ed Cooley's beef with Illinois. Touch on Bryce, talk about the Fantaspace last night. Lot to go over today. I feel like, we say that every episode, but that's because it's basketball season. That's what we wait for. So before we get into all of that, let's talk some turkey, no pun intended, for the kids back home. Matt, what's on the docket for Thanksgiving in your household?
Oh, pretty basic stuff. You get the turkey, you get mac and cheese is being introduced this year, I think, to the table. Hasn't been a staple. A lot of casseroles, mashed potatoes, of course. I'm Irish as it gets, so potatoes are a staple.
Yep.
But yeah, just the basic turkey and your usual sides. What about you?
Yeah, same kind of stuff. We haven't really ventured into the mac and cheese yet.
Mm-hmm.
The first time a white family brings mac and cheese to the table at Thanksgiving is usually they don't go back. So we haven't really got there yet, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been to other Thanksgivings where mac and cheese was a staple, right? It just hasn't really graced the Leb family yet. Maybe someday, and maybe we'll never go back. But it is like a cultural thing. I like you said, you're Irish, right? A lot of potatoes.
Irish as shit.
Yeah, Irish as shit. Yes, same. I'm Irish, French Canadian, and Italian. We're so it's just cultural thing, But like I said, it's feast week, so it's a great week to be a college basketball fan. We've had some really exciting games the past couple of days. Obviously, this is a PC basketball podcast, but we also do talk about the Big East. We've had some great Big East games from the Big East teams. We had two UConn losses, which I got to be honest, I'm pretty excited about. Were you able to catch those two games?
Yeah. Big, this is a legacy run of hate watching the last 48 hours. We were talking before, and it's like, when it comes to UConn, like, obviously you want to root for the Big East, but when it's like a regional rival that it's like it would be awesome if they lost. That was basically my viewing experience. I was kind of going back and forth. I was like, does this help the Big East, or does this hurt the Big East, or like, do I want to fire off a couple shit talking tweets and call it a day? Like, it's a double-edged sword.
It's definitely it's hard. I think we actually had too successful of a hate watch the past couple days, because I'm always kind of caught between rooting for UConn in the non-conference and wanting them to lose. I think given how the Big East has kind of struggled, I found myself yesterday, maybe kind of rooting for them and being like, all right, we need UConn to be a pillar. And then realizing maybe halfway through the game that this team, I don't really think is going to be, at least not for a little while this year. Maybe, it kind of February, they put together, start to put together, some really good wins. I'm not saying they're bad. They're still going to be in the top 25, but they have some holes. I really think that Samson Johnson looked terrible these last couple of games. Mahaney, Dan Hurley's antics, a little crazy. But
A little?
It's hard. Like I'm content with them losing, and being happy with that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would be more okay with UConn losing, not having some of the Big East drop some games that they probably shouldn't have. You look around the league, and Creighton just lost an in-state rivalry to Nebraska. I believe they just dropped one to San Diego State today.
Yeah.
St. John's, obviously they got screwed at the end of that first-round game against Baylor, but then they show up with a stinker against Georgia. So across the league, the expected big wins that would have otherwise boosted the Big East analytics, for what it's worth, haven't been happening. So someone's got to carry the conference, Leb. Someone's got to carry the conference.
And it might be us. It might be us. It might be the Friars. Like Xavier looks good. Marquette looks really good. I think they're the best team in the conference. But it's hard. I think that ultimately, when you want the Big East to be good, like we all do. But having said that, I think if you take care of your business, right, you do your thing, and you win the games you're supposed to win, I think the conference will always be good enough to where if, like I said, you win the games you're supposed to and you're a 21, 22 win team, then you should be looking at an NCAA tournament bid, and that's really just the goal for the Friars at this point. So, yeah, I mean, UConn fans, hey, I think they'll be okay, right? Back-to-back championships, and they have a really, really still a really good team that does have some holes. So not trying to contradict myself from earlier. Shout out Donnie Mexico. He always corrects me on my contradictions. But, they still have a really good team, and they're young. So they're going to grow. They're going to get better. But how about Hurley, though? I mean, that's something we got to talk about because I think the guy's a little off the rails.
Yeah, it's a lot. I have been a Dan Hurley hater for as long as I can remember. His antics have been across the line a lot of times. Like last year, there were a bunch of situations just like Monday's game where he freaks out and you can read his lips on TV. He's not saying the typical "that's bullshit." The usual, I guess, coach talk in the middle of a game. It's saying some things. He's speaking some French. And I feel like the last year or two, it's just kind of gotten brushed by the wayside because they've been a successful team. It was, again, part of the hate watching thing. Almost felt good that it was amplified so much yesterday because a lot of the times he does cross the line. Like I saw a report saying he called the ref an R word, I saw him calling Penny Hardaway bitch ass.
Yeah.
Like these are things that no other coach would get away with as much as he has so far. And it's just obviously like he's won. So like there are certain aspects where it's like, okay, well, yeah, you earned it. You get a little longer of a leash. Mm-hmm. But like, dude, there's some words like I wouldn't say around my parents. I just wouldn't.
No, I hear you. I agree. You can't to say like to call a ref like you're a fucking joke. Like that was one he said. The R word thing, I think that was a fake report. But I don't know if he did or if he didn't. But like he did. You could read his lips. He did call the ref a joke, and he did call Penny Hardaway a bitch ass, which is crazy. Like you're a professional coach. Like you're supposed to be professional, right? Like you're the highest paid employee in the state of Connecticut. Like that's your behavior is crazy for someone like that. And I think that knowing UConn fans, they are totally okay with it because he's winning. So like UConn fans always say like they love it, and they do because he's winning, but they would be the first group of people to absolutely torch Dan Hurley for his antics if he was not bringing in, national championships, which he is. So can't really say much. But man, I like that group of people. Like they always have something to say about literally everything. If he was losing, I mean, you already kind of seen some of the maybe UConn fans on Twitter take a little bit of a negative stance, even just after 2 losses, right? But imagine if like it was worse, the fans would be totally against him. So,
yeah, they're crashing out. It's absolutely beautiful to see. I wouldn't want my feast week any other way. However, like obviously it's no secret Hurley's a psycho, and UConn the last 20 months or so have done nothing but win. And I think there is some sort of correlation there. I think the intensity and the strict demand for excellence in that program obviously correlates to on-court success. You saw last week Hurley saying we were comically bad. Yeah, we won by 40, but we were comically bad. I think that was a little, yeah. So you rolled your eyes there. I rolled my eyes too. I think it's a little bit of I think he's playing into it a little bit. But the him being a psychopath does correlate to some sort of on-court success. You need intensity in a sport like basketball. You saw a guy like Cam Spencer last year. Say what you want about him. He was intense. He's vocal. I was obviously totally different levels of basketball, but I was the same type of player, like intense, just talking shit. And that's a big aspect of the game. Like basketball is probably 30-40% mental. So I think there is correlation with that, but there's a line, and I don't think many people can identify that line. Nor do people talk about it as much when the line's crossed. But Dan Hurley, I can point to at least half a dozen instances in the last 2 or 3 years where he's crossed that line.
Yeah, I agree. He kind of lives on that line. So I'll ask you the same question that Donnie asked in the spaces last night, Fanta's space last night, which there was a lot to talk about there, ton of subject matter. One of which that, got on Barstool, and perfect. Here it is. So, yeah. So Fanta in the Fanta space, he didn't address it. He kind of skipped over it, which totally respect John, doing his job. And we had already kind of talked about the Dan Hurley thing. So I think he was kind of just trying to glaze over it, whatever, didn't want to bring any more attention to it. But Donnie asked, is Hurley's inability to control his emotions rubbing off on his players? And he cited Samson Johnson, getting in that altercation late in the game as, like kind of an indication that might be the case. And I think it's very possible. I really do think it's very, very possible. I think Dan also recruits a certain type of player where he wants that intensity, like you just brought up, like Cam Spencer, and you see that with some of his players this year. But I think that, again, it comes back to the line, right? At some point, it starts being a negative. Too much intensity, too much passion becomes a negative. I don't know. I think it's a fair question.
Yeah, I totally agree. And even like Liam McNeely, I think he's going to be a great player, to be honest. I don't see him being one of those UConn guys that I hate. But even he was playing with intensity. You saw him in the huddle Monday night saying, let's fucking win this game. We're going to win this game. Yeah. There's a certain style of guys that Hurley likes to recruit, like you said. And it obviously historically has resulted in success. But when you see what we've seen the last 48 hours, that, believe it or not, UConn's human. What do you do in the face of adversity now?
Yeah. We'll see. It'll be an interesting finish to the non-conference schedule for UConn. Man, though, I got to say, like the MTEs are so awesome and so great because you got all these fans in different places and they travel and you get to see these places. But at the end of the day, the people that are traveling far to these MTEs, they're diehard fans, right? I've been to a couple MTEs myself, never further than maybe Mohegan or, wherever, pretty close by. But traveling to Hawaii from Connecticut, you could say, oh, well, you're still in Hawaii. But you can't tell me that you're not, like, upset. You go to 2 games back-to-back. UConn loses 2 very winnable or games they should 100% win, and you lose both close games in very frustrating fashion. And, then you got to enjoy the rest of your vacation that you spent a lot of money on. Like, let's face it, a lot of money on. And I can imagine that's kind of tough. Like, not to be like, to feel bad for people that you shouldn't feel bad for because they have 2 national championships in the last 2 years. But, I mean, that's kind of
and they're in Hawaii.
And they're in Hawaii, of course. Yeah, but still, it's like a lot of money, and it's just, and I would be miserable. Like I'm miserable. Like in New York when they lose the Big East tournament, I only got 2.5 hour drive home. But let alone Hawaii. I mean, that flight home, that must be rough.
Yeah, that's brutal. I'm actually looking into what are they in San Diego next year?
Yeah,
I think that MTE is going to be awesome. That's one I definitely have kind of on my radar.
For sure. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That one, my eyes lit up when I saw that one. I love San Diego. Great place. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I really wanted to go to the Bahamas. The Bahamas was a perfect tournament to go to. The problem with the Bahamas is it's the accommodations. It's like the hotel, and then it's not like all inclusive. So I mean, the bill you rack up is just insane. Like if you like to drink or eat whatever, like it's not even just the price of the stay. It's everything. It's just so intense. And then obviously with what I have going on, I couldn't do it anyways. But it's just it was, even if I was 100% healthy, like I don't think I would have done it. It's just kind of ridiculous. But so yeah, I mean, obviously I know we also wanted to touch on Mr. Ed Cooley. Speaking of coaches that are off the rails, we did have an incident where Ed Cooley called out another university, the University of Illinois, and we have now officially made an alliance with the Illinois fan base. This is exciting stuff. Another team, another fan demographic that now hates Ed Cooley. We are happy to have you guys. So welcome to the fight. Interesting choice of words, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, definitely. So we have the video right here for context purposes. Obviously, Jaden Epps plays for Georgetown, former transfer from the University of Illinois, and Ed Cooley had this to say.
Also seen a growth in Jaden. I've talked to him yesterday in practice. I talked to him today before the game. His development defensively is I mean, it's almost like it's a new player. But it's something that I saw him as freshman year when he played for that other bullshit school. So, and I'm pretty sure that'll make national news when I say that, but I never said the school it was.
Obviously crashing out. This is clear mental illness, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just tough to see. I almost feel bad at this point. You almost feel bad. Almost.
Oh, yeah, almost is the operative word there. I don't – it's insane. I think you had a tweet the other day talking about speed running just killing your public image. And Ed Cooley, if you ever want to be hated by the masses after being loved by so many people, look no further than Ed Cooley. Send him an email, see if he can give you some sort of like online course. I know there was some sort of rumor about how Brad Underwood at Illinois kind of, pulled the sheet out from under Ed Cooley and, got Jaden Epps to commit to Illinois instead of Providence. I'm not sure. I don't really follow recruiting too much before the last year or so I don't know the accuracy of that. But, it really just seems like Ed Cooley's just kind of, picking fights with random people now. Because, he's literally just crashing out. He's just picking fights wherever he can.
Yeah, I could see if Jaden never ended up playing for Cooley and Cooley was still bitter about it. And whatever, and he had the opportunity to say something, and he was still mad. Ed Cooley, like, he won. Whatever the beef there was, whatever the situation was with Underwood or Illinois, like, Ed Cooley won. He got Jaden Epps. Jaden Epps has been playing for Ed Cooley for multiple years now, and it's like, it doesn't make any sense for him to still harbor some, like, angst. And it almost is like, it almost kind of does really show that he is kind of like crashing out, in my opinion. He is kind of dealing with maybe some mental or emotional stuff, because that's like stuff like, maybe like a friend you haven't seen in a while and you heard some rumors about, and like, it's whatever, and they hold on to stuff, almost people like hold on to stuff and they let it like fester, because they're not well, because that's what unwell people do, is they think and they let things like kind of boil over in their mind, and they can't be freed from it. And it's like almost like that's what's happening with Ed Cooley. It's like, you're really mad about Jaden Epps 3-4 years later when the guy plays for you now? Like, it makes no sense. It's such like, he's just, maybe it's his ego. I don't know, but it's bizarre. It's truly bizarre.
Yeah, it's got, like, I made the mental illness joke, but like, all jokes aside, like, it is some sort of like psychological thing with him. I made jokes about it last year, but like, I think we are seeing him like genuinely crash out. Like, you see it in so many interviews, like when he's calling out the kids at Rutgers that are like student reporters. Taking credit for the energy inside the dunk last year in January. Just all these things where he's like, I genuinely don't know if it's intentional or not, but like painting himself as the bad guy. I saw someone tweet the other day that Ed Cooley at PC was fake, and the real Ed Cooley we're seeing at Georgetown. And believe it or not, as much as I want to hate on the guy, I don't think that's true. Like, I think Ed Cooley was genuinely himself at PC because it worked. Like, he was the hometown guy, living the dream in his hometown. But I don't think anything's fake about Ed Cooley at Georgetown either. I think he's crumbling under the pressure of, damn, I just made this, career-defining move. And like, what if I don't flip this program around like I promised?
Yeah,
like,
in other words,
I think you're the true Ed Cooley at both stops.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, like, in other words, is basically like Ed Cooley changed a little bit.
Yeah, well, and it's really just the situation and obviously public perception. I'm not going to stop making jokes about the guy, but like, he's clearly crashing out, and it genuinely seems like he's just like crumbling under the pressure because he's just reaching for stuff now. Because, like, I don't think this program is anywhere close to being back to what it was.
No, they're clearly not. I agree. Yeah, I agree with the fact that, like, I think Ed Cooley was fairly genuine at Providence for the most part. Like, do I think I think he's always a little bit of a, try to sell you on Ed, right? Like, I'm going to try to sell you on me as a person, right? Like, very genuine people don't need to necessarily do that. So I think maybe there's some sort of merit to Ed being just kind of like a little bit of a con artist. But yeah, I think that I think he is a very likable guy when things are going his way. When things aren't going his way, it seems like maybe he starts to get a little, nervous, so to speak, or just nasty, right? Like, that's what we've seen. When things aren't going his way, he kind of throws a little bit of a fit. There's so many instances in the last, year and a half that you can point to that you just even forget about. Like you just brought up, like the reporter teaching the kid how to be a reporter, telling them kind of what kind of questions they need to ask. Like, that's, I totally forgot about that. Like, that wasn't even on the radar. And
if you want to tell reporters how to ask questions, Ed, hit up Derek Rube if you want to teach people how to ask questions. I just had to sneak that one in there.
Yeah. No, him and Derek should get together.
Nightmare blunt rotation.
Yeah, and it's just two guys. Two guys passing the blunt back and forth.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but moral of the story, I think this is a clear building of an alliance with the Illini. I've never been a huge Big Ten guy, personally. I got my Big East team, obviously. That's S tier right there for me. I got my Big 12 team. I got my SEC team. I've always been anti-Big Ten. But the Illini have found a new fan in myself, and I think a lot of other Friars. Maybe not a fan, but a comrade.
Yeah, no, I'll be a fan. They had the Terrence Jones Jr. thing last year, and like I was interviewing some Illinois fans, and like I said some things about Terrence Jones, which ended up not being true. So apologies for that. A couple of Illinois fans, which I was really surprised they remembered, and they called me out. So obviously my bad, but everyone was kind of saying it at the time, so it was a thing. But yeah, I'm fighting Illini till I die. So good for them. They let Ed Cooley have it. Hopefully they continue to do so. And yeah, we're happy to have you on the right side of history. So,
You have any teams you root for in other conferences outside of the Illini?
Well, now not really as much. When I was a kid, I used to like Kansas a little bit because PC was never in the tournament, so I kind of needed like a team to root for. So I liked Kansas. Now I don't really care at all. I like some like lower level teams. Like I like to see some like old teams that were good in the past, like niche college basketball teams that were good, and then maybe could be good again. Like you're maybe like a UNLV, kind of drawn to like that, or like a St. Louis, or like a VCU, things like that, teams like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll always look for those like high mid-major teams in the tournament. But yeah, no branding other than the Friars that I care for.
Yeah, I like you grew up like in Kansas. My grandmother, rest in peace, always picked Kansas every year in the bracket, so it was always like a running joke. I love everything about Fog Allen. I want to go there one day.
Yeah.
And then obviously just Alabama, just adjacent to football. I like Nate Oates. I think he's a likable version of Dan Hurley to an extent. So those are the other, major conference teams that I'll root for outside of the Big East. Well, like you, I'll pick a mid-major every year. Like it'll just be like no loyalties at all. Like sometimes I like Drake last year. Loved watching Drake last year. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said shout out Keno David. Keno David.
Oh yeah, for sure. Anyway, digress.
Yeah.
Leb, it's feast week. Dan Hurley's crashing out. Ed Cooley's crashing out. I'm gonna stuff my fat fucking face with food in about 48 hours.
Yep.
And the Friars haven't even played basketball yet. It's a fantastic week, and I think it's worth celebrating.
It really is. And, tomorrow should be special. I mean, you got the night before Thanksgiving, you got the Friars versus Oklahoma, which we're going to touch on. And you got just a lot of stuff going on. And it's just good times, and it's only November. So college basketball, this is intense right now, right? And it's only going to ramp up. You get into conference play, it's a lot of fun. And we've been having a lot of fun with the show. Everyone's been, very receptive, very good. So, what do we got next? We got some questions, or you want to do the Atlantis preview? We promised.
Yeah, so I completely forgot. we did promise an Atlantis preview. One question I forgot to bring up. The PC Post said odds on Hurley getting into an altercation with a rep this year. Just going back, I didn't want to snub PC Post on this good question.
No, great question. Yeah.
He said Dan Hurley is going to end up like Bobby Knight. And I didn't even think of the Bobby Knight comparison, but they are both absolute psychos. And maybe that's the image Dan Hurley's going for. He's like, oh, Bobby Knight's all-time great coach. I want to be an all-time great coach. Let me win a couple championships and start throwing chairs and dropping R-bombs.
Dropping R-bombs, yeah. I mean, listen, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm borderline more surprised that it's never happened before. He's obviously a very intense guy. He's been in a lot of intense games. I think the chances are high with the expectations, because the one thing that Hurley has never experienced at the collegiate level is failing to meet expectations for the most part. I mean, like when he first got to UConn, they had a couple rough years and maybe he was feeling it a little bit, but coming off back-to-back national championships, the only downside to that is people expect you now to win a national championship every year. And obviously that's not feasible. So if the team stinks, then he's going to feel it. He's going to feel it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll be there every step of the way, Leb. I'll be there every step of the way if he's feeling pressure. All right.
I will too. He's got me blocked though, so I can't tweet at him and add to that. But
that's fair.
Excuse me. Excuse my dog.
Oh, Friars are playing on Wednesday. All right, but we promised an Atlantis preview. We did promise an Atlantis preview. For anyone watching, I'm going to throw the bracket up right here. Leb, any thoughts going into the game?
Well, there are a lot of thoughts, but most importantly is before we talk specifics about Oklahoma, I want to talk about who the Friars might be throwing out there. So we've heard from John Fanta himself that we will see Bryce Hopkins this week, or it's likely that we'll see Bryce Hopkins this week against Oklahoma. We also heard today from Kevin McNamara that Bryce is going to be a game time decision. So depending on when you're listening to this episode, we might have more news about it. Might have, might be more cloudy than it was before. Do you think we see Bryce tomorrow?
We've gotten our hopes up before on this show. I was about to bet my life savings on it. However, can't afford to do that. So I'm going to give it a 90% chance that we see Bryce. And he's said in interviews, when I come back, I'll be 100%. Like, you're going to get the 100% of Bryce Hopkins when I come back. So if and when he plays, I think he'll start. And I ideally don't think there will be too much of a minutes restriction. If he's 100%, there's no reason to ease him back in, I'd imagine. Obviously, getting back to game speed is a little different. So I think last episode you said you expected 25 minutes out of Bryce. I think that's a reasonable number now, knowing that if he plays, he's 100%.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out, and I'm not going to, speculate. I'm not going to stir the pot. I'm not going to get anyone riled up. And I certainly don't know anything. But I do know and feel that this kind of situation is a little bit odd to me. Been around sports my whole life, watched sports my whole life, seen guys come back from Tommy John, torn ACLs, broken legs. And I'm confused because I hear Bryce is playing 5-on-5, that he's been playing 5-on-5 for quite a while, and that Kim says he looks great and he'll come back when he's ready. But then I hear he might play, then he doesn't play, and then he's definitely going to play, then now he's a game time decision. So it's either one of two things. It's either he's not ready yet and he's not 100%, or maybe there's like some gamesmanship with Kim, and he's trying to play it close to the chest so that Oklahoma doesn't know if he's playing or not, which obviously I would prefer the latter to be the case. I'm not 100% positive that that is the case. This whole thing just kind of seems a little odd to me how it's, unfolding. I hope we see him. But now, even after the report with Fanta, I almost feel like we might not see him after the saying it was a game time decision, just because I'm almost like you're at a point where I'm giving up. I've given up trying to speculate when he's going to play. It's just like when he plays, and I can't even worry about it anymore because I've spent so much time worrying about it and thinking about it that I just can't anymore. So I don't know.
Like I said, I think 90% chance we're going to see him. That is not me going off any insight other than the reports that you had stated from Fanta, McNamara. I'm just going off vibes. These are the three biggest games over the next month of your season, and a month in college basketball is a long time. That's a big chunk of your season. It is not a long season. Over the next month, these are the three of the four probably biggest games on your schedule. Until maybe Marquette comes to town, this game against Oklahoma is a huge measuring stick. And then, God forbid we win, you face a team that's perennially a top 4 seed in March. They look good analytically. This is a very big stretch. And if Bryce is 100%, I don't see a realm where he doesn't play. If we don't see Bryce in Atlantis, I think there's much bigger concerns. Whether, regardless of what we're going to see on the court or how the season's going to shake out, it's a nightmare scenario, I think, if we don't see Bryce. And I've been super optimistic on all fronts on the show, but I'm going to chalk it up to a 90% chance he plays. And if we don't see him, we can officially say the sky's falling.
Yeah, I think that is totally reasonable. I think that's fair, reasonable, and I think that if he doesn't play in Atlantis, for one, we're probably not going to, do too much. Well, I really don't know. I mean, I'm without Bryce on the team, I'm still unsure about this team against good competition. I don't know. Part of me thinks that they just needed some time to kind of gel, and I think that they can compete at a high level without Bryce Hopkins. Realistically, most of me feels that if they do want to compete at a high level against, power conference teams, they're probably going to need Bryce Hopkins to be there at some level and probably be there playing pretty well. So I don't know, but I do know that with or without Bryce Hopkins, Oklahoma is a very, very winnable game and a very big game that they really need almost to win. So do you like the Friars tomorrow to get the W?
Yeah, I like the Friars, and I like the Friars big. I'm not sure what the spread is. I'm also never going to bet on the Friars ever again. But I would take an alternate spread. Friars minus I'll take Friars by 12, at least. I feel safe saying that. I think if Bryce plays, this team is completely different. They're firing on all cylinders. And I'm in the position, or I'm in a mindset to say mindset. There's a weird scenario where everything falls right for the Friars, and November 29th rolls around, and we're staring Gonzaga down the barrel for a battle for Atlantis championship. Because Arizona's a team that's looked slow as well. I think the Friars roll Oklahoma. Arizona's a team that's gotten clapped by Wisconsin. They looked slow and just bad when Duke came to town in their own arena. Caleb Love being such a wild card. I see a world where Bryce Hopkins comes back, he might not be averaging 30 points a game or something stupid like that, but where the guys are clicking and the 29th rolls around and we're playing for a battle for Atlantis title.
It's very possible. It's very possible. I don't hate that idea at all. I think that you beat Oklahoma, and I mean we've seen crazier upsets. The Friars can easily beat Arizona. I'm not saying it will be an easy game. I'm not saying they would even be. They'll probably be 10-point dogs. But like it's college basketball. It's November. You can beat anyone. I mean, unless the team has Hakeem Olajuwon and Oscar Robertson, then you can beat absolutely anyone in college basketball. UConn just lost 2 games to borderline tournament teams. So, yeah, absolutely. Especially you add maybe Bryce into that mix. Maybe Bryce doesn't play versus Oklahoma. Maybe he plays versus Arizona, and that's like your move. That's your ace in the hole, so to speak, or your wild card. For the Oklahoma game, Friars Stats, who's very good friend of the show, we will have him on at some point. He has a lot of great statistics. Obviously, as a Friar fan, we always kind of shy away from the advanced analytics because they never really agree with us. But he ran 10,000 simulations, and the Friars won by 3. So I like it. I think give me like a 5-point Friar victory. If Bryce plays, I don't know. There's also a world where if Bryce plays, his presence hurts the Friars. Obviously not in the long run of the season, but in the one game, it's very possible where just things kind of get thrown off a little bit because you're adding a new piece to a guy who hasn't played basketball in a year. So you might want to just kind of roll with your team against Oklahoma, and then you're playing with house money against Arizona at that point. Throw him out there against Arizona. Maybe he makes an impact. Maybe he's a difference maker. And then all of a sudden you're playing against Gonzaga for the championship.
That's a dream scenario. I think it might sound a little crazy to some people, but I've watched Arizona closely this year. They don't look great. They don't look like, your uncle's Arizona team per se.
Yep.
It's feasible. I think the first round game is the most important. Obviously, revenge game from last year. So the Jeremiah Fears Bowl, Bryson Goodine. There's a lot of storylines in this game if you want to start laying out storylines. And then obviously the potential of it being Bryce's first game back. This game's huge because we're going to learn a lot about this Friars team. First quality opponent that we've seen all year. Like a lot of questions are going to be or start to be answered Wednesday night. And I'm very excited for it. I think the Friars win big, but that's also me being naive and maybe ignorant to an extent.
Yeah. I'll take – so I really want them to go 2-1. I think everyone wants 2-1. Any sort of combination of 2-1, I'm okay with. I'm also okay with 1-2 if the 2 losses are Arizona and Indiana, right? If you obviously if Indiana were to lose to Gonzaga in the second game, then that puts us in game 10 if we were to lose to Arizona after beating Oklahoma. That puts us in game 10 down at the bottom right there. If you're watching on YouTube, that's the third place game, right? So that would be, fine. If you were to even lose that game to Indiana, who's a borderline almost top 10 team. So you have Arizona loss, you have an Indiana loss, but you come out of there with an Oklahoma win. Your strength of schedule skyrockets. You get a quality win in Oklahoma, and you got to see 3 really quality opponents to kind of get you ready for the next layer of the non-conference, which you have BYU and URI, 2 pretty tough games, back to back. So, I'd be okay with 1-2 if those are the 2 losses, but 2-1, that'd be ideal.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to run through this bracket and see if there are any other combinations of 1 and 2 that I would be like, all right, ball don't lie, type of thing.
Well,
But
yeah, theoretically, if Indiana were to lose to Louisville game 1, and you were to lose, so if you lose to Oklahoma, but then you beat Davidson, then you were to lose to Indiana. You know, I mean, I'm not okay with that, but I guess that wouldn't be like ultimately like the worst. The sky wouldn't be falling, you know.
I think the consensus is definitely like walk away 2-1 and we're happy. I think there's scenarios that shake out potentially where, you know, not all 2-1s or 1 and 2s are created equally in this type of bracket. I just think that first round game against Oklahoma is so important. I think it's not the biggest game in months, but like it's a pretty significant game. Like I said, first quality opponent, and it's just a lot is going to be told about the Friars.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely make the argument it's the biggest non-conference game they've had, you know, in the Kim English era because of kind of maybe just the stance, you know, like how this season has kind of started, which, you know, not to sound like Eric Rube, right? But I think it's fair to question kind of where the team's at, plus with, you know, the question mark of Bryce and things like that. I mean, here's the thing. If you lay an egg in Atlantis and you lose to BYU, then you're in trouble. Like you're in big trouble. And if you don't see Bryce any of those games, then it's he might as well just not suit up. I mean, for the whole year.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he still could transfer. not trying to be a tinfoil hat guy, but he still could transfer. So, you know, until he plays, I'm not 100% convinced that he's going to play. I mean, I'm like 99% convinced. So, but
yeah, I totally think he's going to play. Do you want to give some predictions, concrete predictions for this bracket, how it's going to shake out?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah. I'll say, so first start with the winner. I'll say Gonzaga's going to win. I'm not going to get cute. I think Gonzaga's going to win. I think we beat Oklahoma. I think we lose to Arizona. And I think we win the third place game against Indiana. And then the Indiana game is a battle of it's just a Twitter battle. And whoever wins the Twitter war that game, that's who's going to win the game.
Okay, I like that. Are there any other like big online fan base presences in this tournament? Like I think I've seen like 2 Gonzaga fans on Twitter. Davidson sure as hell not.
No, I mean not this one. In Indiana, well, Indiana's huge. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just us in Indiana. I mean, yeah, like Louisville has a pretty big fan base. They're not really that represented online right now because they just kind of stink. But
I feel like a lot of them are old too, no? Like I feel like when you think of like Kentucky basketball, it's a lot of like, I don't know. Maybe that's just a wrong perception. I don't know.
I don't think that's crazy. I don't think that's crazy at all.
If Louisville fans come out of the woodwork, I'll make them my ACC team for the year. That'll be the team I root for in the ACC all year long.
Okay.
But until then, I'm convinced it's only Indiana and Providence as far as online fan bases in this tournament.
Yeah. I think that's probably correct. But yeah, I mean, there's some really good programs in this tournament and some great fan bases. But yeah, just like online, it's PC and it's Indiana. That's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm. That would set up for it's not going to happen, but that would set up for a crazy finals.
Oh, that'd be insane.
Right?
That'd be insane.
That'd be nuts. I think Gonzaga comes out of the top half of the bracket. I think Indiana falls to Louisville. I think I can see Indiana having like a bad shoot. I'm thinking of ways to justify bold takes. I can see Indiana having a bad shooting night. Pat Kelsey's got those boys rolling. Louisville plays Gonzaga. Friars win. Duh. Arizona, Friars second round. Like I said, Friars win. Gonzaga over the Friars in the finals. And then other half of the bracket, Indiana over Oklahoma in the 5th place game.
Okay.
Those are my concrete predictions. Signed, sealed, delivered. Bet the mortgage on it.
I love it. I love it. Also going to predict that PC fans probably drink the most at the tournament. I think that's a solid prediction. And we will also hear from Tommy Gufano, who is boots on the ground in Atlantis, in the Bahamas. So we'll hear from a very lubed up Bohemian Tommy Gufano later on in the show. So excited about that.
You had mentioned PC fans drinking the most in Atlantis. One, I think that's 100% like death taxes and PC fan base is going to drink the most. I think more MTEs should do what the College World Series does. And there's one bar where fan bases buy drinks or shots or whatever, and they keep a scoreboard of which fan base drinks the most.
Oh.
And then it becomes a competition. Every fan base drinks themselves under the table because they're trying to win. And MTE needs to do that, or we need to get in touch with a bar in downtown Providence for when March Madness comes to town.
Yeah, so that's awesome. And I definitely feel like that would be great for the Big East tournament. If the only thing is there's so many bars, and Jack Dempsey's just all PC fans, but like that would be great for the Big East tournament because everyone in the Big East, every fan base drinks heavily. We are probably better than most, but don't sleep on like Marquette fans.
Oh yeah.
Don't sleep on who else we got? I mean, yeah, Creighton fans. I don't know. UConn.
Hoyas in East Greenwich at 3 a.m. Sorry, my bad. But no, I think even like when March Madness comes to town,
yeah,
like let's like you get like Duke fans and I don't know. I'm just pulling it. West Virginia fans and VCU fans coming in and like Murphy's or something or Blake's has like a scoreboard, and it's just like whoever buys the most Jello shots, we're keeping score. I feel like that'd be awesome.
No, I agree.
However, back to the fan base drinking. I started this episode by saying someone's got to carry the conference, and Providence Friars are a blue blood drinking program.
They are indeed. I think we would win that battle. I'm trying to think. Yeah, no one else on there. I mean, Louisville fans, I could see maybe getting down.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure the if you looked at the representation, like the amount of fans there, I'm sure PC isn't the most represented. Probably Arizona or Oklahoma or actually it's probably Indiana.
Yeah.
So
So we're talking about ranking Big East teams. This question comes from Dixie. Dixie says, thoughts on the Big East ranking shuffle. UConn's loss, DePaul's rise, Seton Hall's choking, etc. Predictions for conference play in Big East tournament as it stands today. Bonus points for in-depth discussions on Big East coaches as Thanksgiving sides. All right, so let's break this into pieces.
Okay.
Who has moved the most, I guess, in your internal Big East rankings since November 4th?
Yeah, so I mean, it's got to be DePaul. There's no doubt. I mean, it's in the question. So not the most sexy answer, but it's just got to be DePaul. I mean, they have easily exceeded expectations, and they've also just actually been good. Like, it's not even like, oh, this is good for DePaul. Like, this is just good for like any Big East team. They're undefeated, and they really haven't had like any close games. I think maybe like one close game, and they just absolutely blew the doors off of whoever they played last. Like, they won by like 40.
Yeah, they look like a wagon. They look like a wagon.
Yeah.
I think it's super good for the league. It's going to be interesting because the analytics, I guess, of 0-20 DePaul versus a DePaul that starts the season 6-0. Looks like they're going to win a handful of Big East games this year. With UConn not appearing to be the wagon that it's been the last year and a half, if the Big East doesn't have like a blue chip team in these analytics rankings, but they don't have any teams outside the top 120, 140.
Yep.
I wonder how that is going to, come March 1st, like what that's going to look like and how that's going to be perceived, I guess, by the selection committee. Like, is that more quantity over quality of like good teams? I don't know. It's going to be interesting for me.
No, yeah. That's awesome point. Glad you brought that up. Totally forgot. Last night in the the spaces with Fanta, this was pre-John Fanta crash out. They were talking about the league last year and the UConn loss impact to the league. But he brought up a great point. Last year, DePaul's RPI was in the 300s. Georgetown was in the high 100s. They were like 180. This year you don't really have any borderline. Almost every team in the conference is in the top 100. So, UConn might take a step back, right? And Creighton might take a step back, and you might not have as many teams in the top 40, but you're going to have a lot. You're going to be much less bottom heavy, which I think will even things out. For DePaul, say DePaul jumps 250 spots from 40 to in the 90s. I mean, that'll help the league a ton. So that's why I'm going to enjoy the UConn losses. I'm not going to panic about the league. I'm going to be happy that they lost. And, I think the league's going to be fine. You just got to handle your business, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree. It's just you got 11 teams that are a little more balanced out now. You don't have the number one team in the country, but that also comes at the price of not having the 300th best team in the country. So right. I think the conference, when we look up, like these losses look bad right now, and everyone's kind of overreacting league wide. But if you finish with 11 teams in the top 120, that is tenfold better than what it was last year. As far as conference play, I think it's going to be interesting. I actually have my biggest riser is surprisingly Marquette, because I was super low on Marquette going into the year. DePaul, I had them in like 9-10 range. I still feel comfortable putting them in like the 7-8 range. It's not that big of a movement. But Marquette has looked awesome. I mean, you beat the brakes off Purdue. Cam Jones, who I don't know if I've said it on this podcast, but Cam Jones is my Big East Player of the Year pick. Like, he's just a purebred bucket. And now that they look like they're a team that's going to compete for, a second weekend appearance in March, you could easily look up and Marquette's 16-4 in the Big East, and Cam Jones is averaging 25 a game.
I agree. Totally.
So
agree.
and I was very low on Shaka Smart not going into the portal, but he's clearly developed his guys, and what everyone said, and myself included, Marquette was going to lose with Iguodaro and Kolick. Scoring wise, Cam Jones he's ensured that is not a problem. That is not a problem. Marquette looks like a wagon. They're the best team in the Big East right now. Argue with the wall.
No, I agree. It's Marquette. It's Marquette. I mean, by a wide margin. And then, I'd still probably go UConn, but Xavier's in the conversation, for the next best team. as of right now, though, Xavier, Xavier does have a loss. Providence doesn't. And Providence gets Bryce Hopkins back. And if that is true, and they are getting Bryce Hopkins back, there's no reason now, with UConn losing these 2 games, to not say that with Bryce Hopkins, that PC's the second best team in the Big East. That's not crazy. It's not crazy. I don't hear what anyone says. It is not crazy at all. Obviously, I'm the most biased Friar fan out there. My bias is a literal shtick. It's known about. But that is not a crazy thing to say with being 5-0 and getting Bryce Hopkins back. If you beat Oklahoma tomorrow, you're the second best team in the Big East right now. Period. And no one can even argue that.
Yeah. I mean, as far as just like avoiding bad losses and not completely collapsing, like obviously some bye games were a little closer than you would have liked, but as far as just handling business, yeah, I don't think that's much of an, at least top 3. At least you got to have the Friars in your top 3 if you sneak past Oklahoma. I would go as far as to say top 20 if the Friars are playing in the Atlantis final.
Yep. Yeah.
Top 20 in the nation.
Give me Oklahoma, Arizona victory, and you're in the top 25. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Top 20, top 25, whatever. It can be a little hard to crack into the top 25, but yeah, you beat those 2 teams, you're in there, and you're in business.
Mm-hmm. So, also bonus points. We got to go for Dixie's bonus points here. Thanksgiving sides: Dan Hurley, cranberry sauce; Ed Cooley, dry stuffing that isn't actually going to get touched. People maybe throw it on their plate to look nice, and you don't want to be rude, but it's like really bad stuffing. Like no one actually wants to eat it. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I'm a little confused at the question. So, Big East coaches as Thanksgiving sides. So, like, if they were the sides,
I would imagine. Yeah, that's why I compared Hurley and Cooley to dog shit sides.
Yeah, I mean, all right. I mean, I would say that Sean Miller is the gravy because the guy is just fucking wet all the time. He's just wet. So that's the only one that I could say is the best, like, parallel as a Thanksgiving side. Other than that, I mean, that's kind of tough. I don't know if I could accurately answer that without maybe stereotyping.
I guess if we're given like rational explanations, I would make Cooley the cranberry sauce because nobody fucking likes cranberry sauce.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I don't hate cranberry sauce, but
okay, fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think cranberry sauce is good on Thanksgiving. So, I'm trying to think. I think Ed would be like, I don't know. I would need more time on this one, which we don't.
Maybe we'll get back to it. Maybe it'll turn into a tweet later on.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. All right, so I guess moving on. This comes from Brandon Kelly. Pretty flat out, pretty simple. Best 5-man lineup with Bryce fully healthy. What do you think?
Well, best 5-man with Bryce is got to be. I think we've kind of answered this before, but yeah, it's got to be Bensley Joseph, Jaden Pierre, Corey Floyd, Bryce, and then Kreist. I guess based on Oswin had a good game, but also I think I would just give the edge to Kreist right now. But that's like a 5-man that's like Floyd can easily swap out for Cardette, and then you got Kreist could easily swap out for Oswin, or you could go small. Bryce can go to the 5, and then you bring in Cardette, and then you have both Floyd and Cardette, or you bring in Barron, or you bring in Jabri one of those. So I mean, whatever, you can mix and match, but that's probably like your best traditional 5-man.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. Pretty cut and dry. At least the 1, 2, 4, and 5, I'd say. The 3, I think, is fairly interchangeable. I think we talked about this last time. You can throw in Rich Barron in there. I wouldn't be mad. You can throw in Wes Cardette. I wouldn't be mad. You could throw in even Jabri. I wouldn't be too mad. Just you need a shooter at that position, I think, and all 4 of those guys they kind of bring it. Going back to Wes Cardette, Coach Steve says thoughts on Cardette. Are we up or down on him? What do you think?
I'm still in on Worldwide Wes for now. He shows flashes of a really, really good basketball player who has a lot of game, and then he shows flashes where he's not so good. But that's pretty much been the theme with the whole team this year. So I'm rolling with give me Wes. I like him. I think he's going to figure it out, and he can be a bucket. So I'm in on Wes for now. He's safe for now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was super optimistic about Wes coming in, 20-point per game scorer. I don't care where you're doing that. If you're playing D1 basketball, averaging 20 points a game, you're a hooper. It's plain and simple.
Right.
I think his confidence is going to come along. Like, even I think it was the Central Connecticut game. I'm sitting with my buddy, and I looked over. I was like, "Do you think Wes Cardette has played in front of this many people in his life?"
Yeah.
I mean, top 100 recruit. It's a weird question to ask, but you're playing at Chicago State. Like, I don't know. I think it's just going to be a lot of adjusting to playing, even just in an arena, higher level competition. It might take him a little bit to get going in Big East play, but he looks good attacking the hoop. Like you said, he's shown flashes. So I'm confident in him. And I think with Bryce coming back, you don't really need him to be like this alpha scorer by any means. Even Bensley for that matter. But yeah, I think Wes looks good attacking the hoop, and if you put shooters around him, which Kim has done, could be a recipe for success. So I'm still high on Cardette, still optimistic.
Yeah.
So this one comes from PC Mort. We kind of touched on this, but he said, first of all, I would like to wish everyone listening, Mac and Leb, a very happy Thanksgiving. My question is, what are the expectations for the team going into this tournament with Bryce just getting back, probably on limited minutes? Are we writing off the whole tournament, or what do we want to see? So I guess if Bryce plays, I'll say if, but I think when Bryce plays, what would you walk away from Atlantis being like, what I saw out of Bryce, I'm optimistic about, like, going forward?
Well, so yeah, what I want out of Atlantis and what the expectations are obviously always going to be a little bit different. But, what I want isn't crazy. My expectation, honestly, is beat Oklahoma and then, lose to Arizona. And then, depending on the next game, it could be a toss-up. So 1-1 and then a toss-up, That's my expectation. With Bryce there, it could be a little different. Again, it's just hard. I don't know. I have a feeling like Bryce is going to sit Oklahoma and play against Arizona. That's what I feel like. I feel like that would be the icing on the cake of this whole, like, just mind fuckery, debauchery that was this, the Bryce Hopkins coming back thing. I think that's just like how it's going to be. That's my prediction. Actually, I said I didn't have a prediction before about Bryce. That's it.
Mm-hmm. I honestly, if Bryce plays 20 minutes a game, if you can give me 60 minutes of basketball over the course of 3 days, and I get one, I just want to see one Bryce Hopkins from the elbow, put the ball on the floor, spin move layup.
Yeah,
that signature move. If I see that, I will walk away happy, man. Obviously, you'd like him to be 2-1, but give me roughly 60 minutes of basketball and one spin move from the elbow.
All right,
I'd honestly be happy. I think it's going to be awesome because next week we won't have to talk about hypotheticals if Bryce plays. It'll just be like, all right, well, now there's no what ifs. We kind of see what's going on. There's something tangible to work with. So no more speculation in a perfect world. That's honestly what I'm most happy about if he comes back.
Yeah.
Is there's no question marks. It's like he's on the court. You see it, and now you're just judging the team as is at point blank.
Yeah, no, it's very fair. I am sick of the speculation. It is just kind of exhausting. So I'm really, really just ready to put this behind us. And when he plays, he plays.
Put this behind us and win 17 straight games.
Yep.
That's all I asked for. So this last question comes from Gansett Guzzler. And this kind of filled my heart up a little bit because not basketball related, but it got me in the holiday spirit a little bit. Just talking about traditions and whatnot. And honestly, I just can't wait for, like, when we do this show around Christmas time, I can't wait. I freaking love Christmas, but I digress. Got me in the holiday spirit.
Oh, I love that, man.
Get
in the holiday, dude. We don't, the world doesn't have enough of that. So get into
it. So Gansett Guzzler says, what are your Thanksgiving traditions? Blackout Wednesday, interesting / different foods, football versus basketball on the TV. Do with this Thanksgiving question what you want. All right, Leb, what do you think? You got any traditions? Any hot takes about Thanksgiving?
Well, I mean, Thanksgiving, it's for the most part, it's pretty basic for me. Kind of like we said early on. Go to my mom's house. I will be watching college basketball, but I will throw on a little football for the vibes. I'm always college basketball over football, but if it's a Thanksgiving day, football is kind of meant to be. Now, every year on Thanksgiving morning, I played football with my friends. We had, split up. It was like 7 versus 7. I grew up in Smithfield, so we had two sides of Smithfield. There's Esmond, there's Greenville, right? So it was two sides. So I was Team Esmond, right? Every year we would play at like 9 in the morning, whatever. This year I'm not playing. I'm on the bench, so I'm not doing that this year. So I'm going right into Thanksgiving. I'm going to sleep in, and then just kind of take it easy. Nice, relaxing Thanksgiving, chill. Wednesday, the night before, for the game, I will be at JJ Foley's Cafe in Boston. If anyone wants to come out there, it's not a sponsored thing, just great place to watch the Friars. In Boston, best place in Boston to watch PC. Then I'll go out, I think probably Southie, whatever, because I'm kind of over the whole, see everyone from your hometown. Kind of over that. I'm 30 now. I don't need it. Just don't need it. It's fun when you're young, but I don't really care to see anyone that I don't see. My friends, I see them, I talk to them, whatever. I'm over it. So, yeah, other than that, I mean, normal stuff. Really, really normal stuff. No crazy traditions, but looking forward to it. It's going to be a really good time.
So I have a controversial thing. So first of all, I want to preface, the TV is going to be Friars first.
Yeah.
Above all else, obviously, on Thanksgiving.
Of course.
And then football. And then maybe if there's like some feast week games on. I'm getting my feast week fix in right now. Like I got the Memphis, Michigan State game right here.
Yeah.
As much as I like Thanksgiving football, I think Christmas Day basketball is better than Thanksgiving Day football. That's a take I'll stand on. I just wanted to put that out there into the atmosphere. Something about NBA on Christmas Day that I just love. But the Friars will be on over football. Blackout Wednesday, I will be going to the hometown bar. I will be forcing small talk 85% of the time. So I see what you mean about it being overrated.
Yeah.
It's just a convenience thing. I know where I have to be Thursday morning, so Wednesday night I'll just be in the vicinity, so it's convenient and there's no, worrying about getting back, and I don't know. It's a convenience thing for me. Probably gonna, like the name says, black out, make an ass of myself, and just have a night with the fellas. there'll be a couple burners in attendance in the hometown bar. So fired up for that. And then obviously you get a pregame with Oklahoma PC. So I don't think I have any.
That is a really good pregame. I mean, that's stuff you read about, you know.
100%. Like literally not a person on planet Earth will have it better. When I'm fresh out of work, about 4 high noons deep in about a half hour, and Bryce Hopkins steps on a basketball court for the first time in 10 months. No one literally will have it better.
Yeah, you might be right.
It's going to be awesome, and it's going to happen. And I'm keeping the faith that it's going to happen. But Thanksgiving, yeah, love Thanksgiving, and this kind of got me. I don't think I had a concrete answer to the question really at all, but got me in the holiday spirit, and it warmed my heart. So thank you, Nancy Guzzler.
I love that. I mean, the holidays are a special time, especially when you have a significant interest like college basketball, and you follow a team, and things all just kind of come together. You got the Christmas, you got New Year, you got Thanksgiving, you got Feast Week, you got Bryce Hopkins coming back. Hopefully, it is an exciting time, and it's okay to let yourself be excited, and but it is fragile though too. Like this time of year, and this being a college basketball fan, your happiness is fragile. If the Friars end up sucking, like they could easily suck. We don't know. We have no idea if this team is good or fucking terrible. And if it's the latter, then it's a miserable, miserable, dark winter, and it just sucks. I mean, obviously, you're a big Celtics guy, right? So I'm not a huge Celtics guy. I'll enjoy a little Celtics now and then, and I do really like watching the playoffs. But yeah, I'm not getting up for the Celtics. They're not going to save my winter if the Friars suck. Okay. So, this just this is it. You live and die by it, and then I'm okay with it, But that's the life of being a sports fan,
The Divine Friars was having a Spaces today, and he was talking about the beauty of sports is you watch because you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And I think, like you said, like this week, Feast Week, super big for the Friars, and the beauty of it is you don't know what's on the other side. You can look up in the Friars win battle for Atlantis, and they're a top 20 team in the country because they just took down 3 top 50 teams in one weekend. Or you can be staring down the barrel of 0-3 and shit. Maybe Daddy's not waking up tomorrow. Like, this is not fucking like we are not happy. Yeah, that's the beauty of sports. You don't know what's going to happen. The risk and the reward.
No, it really is. It really is. It's awesome. It's the best. The some people like Broadway shows, right? Some people like sports. I'll tell you what though, no one's ever called out of work because the Broadway show didn't go their way, right? But so I mean, that's just how it is. You live and die by it, and that's what makes it fun. So no, couldn't agree more. So we got a voice memo here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So this is from recurring friend of the program, Tommy Gufano, who is, I believe, on his way to the Bahamas.
Hey, what's going on? It's me, Tommy Gufano, reporting live from the John Fitzgerald Kennedy Tarmac here in New York, home of the Big East Tournament. My trip to the Bahamas, not off to a great start so far. TSA line was logjammed. Didn't know what was going on. Turns out there was some bald, obese, four-eyed freak wearing a UConn jersey that was fighting with security, throwing an absolute tantrum because he couldn't take multiple Jersey and Mike subs with him through security line. I never seen anything like it. Needless to say, by the time I get there, TSA agents pissed off. They said, "Sir, we got to strip search you." I asked for a female. My wife gets pissed at that request and said, "You're sleeping alone tonight, so now I have to get a separate hotel room." Anyway, though, Friars, I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow. Like I said last week, Oklahoma, they've never seen sand before. They've never seen the beach. They're not ready for this. The Friars, Bryce is back, dude. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma doesn't even show up. Friars roll, Bryce, I'm going to say easy 20 and 10 for him. Probably only like 20 minutes of play. Be light. We'll see Gonzaga in the championship. Peace. Go Friars.
All right, so Tommy and I share the same sentiment. We're seeing Gonzaga. I like it.
I love it. Tommy, great stuff.
Love it.
Yeah, the UConn fan, I mean, they're having a tough week for them. So, but Tommy Gufano, excellent as usual, just an absolute legend. You don't get that in Fantas spaces. You don't get that.
Love the energy. I love that he brings it to the show.
Yep.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you.
For sure. Well, I think that might do it. What do you think? We good or?
Yeah, I think that was a hell of a preview.
It was.
Hell of a preview. I'm fired up. It's feast week. Our least favorite coaches in basketball are crashing the fuck out. It's beautiful to watch. And let's have ourselves a Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving to all, and enjoy the Friars W against Oklahoma, hopefully the one against Arizona, and go Friars as usual.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.